there's like a joke in this passage, right? He is stabbed so deep to the point where, feces come out, and Ehud just leaves him there. And what do they think? Right? They think, man, maybe he's relieving himself. All right, well, we're going to keep on reading through the book of Judges today. We're going to go into Judges chapter 3. And if you've made it this far, I'm pretty impressed. And, the first two chapters were like the boring part. All right, now things are about to get interesting and kind of weird as we go into this section of Judges where we actually start to see the stories of these heroic, not so heroic guys. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. We'll just read it and figure it out together. And since you have been taking notes so faithfully, you just get out your notebook and you get your Bible and your pen, and you look at your notes from the past two readings, review those, kind of remember the details there, and continue on taking notes into chapter 3. And the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God and served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. Israel forgets God. Therefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, resulting in punishment. And the people of Israel served Cushan-Rishathaim 8 years. But when the people of Israel cried out to the Lord raised up a deliverer for the people of Israel who saved them. People cry. Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. God raises Othniel. So, Othniel is judge number 1. The Spirit of the Lord was upon him, and he judged Israel. He went out to war, and the Lord gave Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand, and his hand prevailed over Cushan-Rishathaim. So the land had rest 40 years. Then Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. Right? It says that God was with him. So what do we learn from Othniel? Well, one is that the people of God forget God and they serve other gods, and which is what we were told was going to happen in chapter 2. That results in God leaving them to be taken by other people groups. Othniel served God, and God gave him victory. So, immediately what we're seeing from this story is unfaithfulness to God results for the people of Israel in the fact that God no longer protected them, but faithfulness to God resulted in the fact that God gave victory to Othniel. And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel because they had done what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So, Israel repeats itself, did evil once the judge had died. He gathered to himself the Ammonites and the Amalekites and went and defeated Israel. And they took possession of the city of palms. And the people of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. That's a long time. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord, and the Lord raised up for them a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjaminite, a left-handed man. What we see here is Israel repeats, and then they do bad, and then they cry, and then God repeats. The people of Israel sent tribute by him to Eglon, the king of Moab, and Ehud made for himself a sword with 2 edges, a cubit in length, and he bound it on his right thigh under his clothes. Again, this is where we go back to that point that I made in a previous video, where if you don't know what a cubit is, okay, you can look that up later, okay? Just know that he made a sword, and he was hiding it. And he presented the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Eglon was a very fat man, and when Ehud had finished presenting the tribute, he sent away the people who carried the tribute. But he himself turned back at the idols near Gilgal and said, I have a secret message for you, O king. And he commanded silence. And all his attendants went out from his presence. And Ehud came to him as he was sitting alone in his cool roof chamber. And Ehud said, I have a message from God for you. And he rose from his seat. And Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. And the hilt also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not pull the sword out of his belly, and the dung came out. That's disgusting. Then Ehud went out into the porch and closed the doors of the roof chamber behind him and locked them. When he had gone, the servants came, and when they saw that the doors of the roof chamber were locked, they thought, surely he is relieving himself in the closet of the cool chamber. There's like a joke in this passage, right? He is stabbed so deep to the point where, feces come out, and Ehud just leaves him there, and what do they think? Right? They think, man, maybe he's relieving himself. This is where the Bible has a very strange sense of humor. And they waited till they were embarrassed, but when he still did not open the doors of the roof chamber, they took the key and opened them, and there lay their lord dead on the floor. Ehud escaped while they delayed, and he passed beyond the idols and escaped to Seirah. All right, so what do we have here? We have Ehud, second judge, kills Eglon with a hidden sword. Okay. Now this is verse 26. Ehud escaped while they delayed, and he passed beyond the idols and escaped to Sarai. When he arrived, he sounded the trumpet in the hill country of Ephraim. Then the people of Israel went down with him from the hill country, and he was their leader. So then he rallies Israelites, and he said to them, Follow after me, for the Lord has given your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. So they went down after him and seized the fords of the Jordan against the Moabites and did not allow anyone to pass over. And they killed at that time about 10,000 of the Moabites, all strong, able-bodied men. Not a man escaped. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. So he defeats Moabites. Land had peace. Okay, now moving on to the last verse here. It says, After him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who killed 600 of the Philistines with an ox goad, and he also saved Israel. Now, an ox goad, I have no idea what that is. But we have this guy, Shamgar, right? And he is the third judge. Okay, so what are some takeaways that we can see from chapter 3 of the book of Judges? One, we have Othniel, who God raises up to deliver the people. And what we see there is that the Spirit of the Lord was with him. So we don't really see anything negative about Othniel. We see something negative about the people of Israel in that they forget God and start serving other gods, right, which brings about the punishment. And then God raises up Othniel to deliver them. When we forget God, he doesn't forget us. When we stop loving God, he doesn't stop loving us. And we can see that by his deliverance of the people of Israel in the first place. And then in the second story with Ehud, whatever his name is, we see that God uses him to deliver the people of Israel, but it's kind of done in a sketchy way. He sneakily comes in there and he kind of like he assassinates the king, right? And he does it in a really brutal fashion. He's hiding a blade and all this stuff, and he stabs the guy, and to the point where there's feces that come out. Some people guess and discuss, was Ehud kind of a bad guy that God used? Like, is he bad for being an assassin? But God used him anyways to deliver the people of Israel. Or some people say that, the Bible doesn't really say one way or the other, and therefore probably should view him as a good guy doing what God wanted him to do. He did what was necessary. I'm going to let you guys make those decisions for yourselves. What is known for sure is that God did use his actions, whether they were the right ones or not. God did use those actions to deliver the people of Israel out of bondage. And so God shows himself kind and faithful to Israel yet again. And Shamgar, we really don't get much information about. We just know that he killed some Philistines, and God used him to deliver Israel as well. So he doesn't really get too much of a story. And what you're going to see is there are 6 judges that get a story, and there are 6 judges that get little footnotes like that. All right, and you can figure out the significance of that later on as you go. But right now, let's just try to focus on getting an understanding of the story in general. So in chapter 3, God uses 3 judges to deliver Israel out of captivity, even though it was the Israelites that abandoned God and were put into captivity as a result of their sinfulness. And what we can see for us today is that God is a gracious God who does not stop loving us even after we have stopped loving him. And God still offers a way of deliverance for the people of this world, even though they don't love him. And we see that best in the cross of Jesus Christ. I mean, what better way is there to show that when the world has turned its back against God, that God comes in and says, I love you anyways, and I see your trouble, I see your tribulations, and I'm going to deliver you. I'm going to offer you a way out. And that's what the cross does for us. Jesus gave us salvation by dying on the cross for us. And so even in the book of Judges, we can see how the grace of God comes in to save us when we are completely undeserving. There's a wasp. Oh, I'm gonna get him. Booyah! So what are some takeaways that we can see from the book of Judges? Let's try that again. Oh, you've made it this far in reading Judges. Phone went off. That's awesome. When we stop loving God, he doesn't stop. Oh, whew. It's just a love bug that time. Okay. Booyah!